Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. Peter Dutton has made his second visit in 4 weeks to the electorate of Lyons ahead of a pending federal election. The opposition leader, alongside local federal members, spruiking a promised cash splash for the local community.
Back on familiar turf, Peter Dutton with one key message.
If we win the seat of Lyons, we get rid of Anthony Albanese as the Prime Minister.
Endorsing local Liberal candidate Susie Bauer, while criticising his competition.
Local communities want a champion, not somebody who turns up meeting after meeting saying that they'll do something. It never happens, which is what's happened with the local Labor member here for a long period of time.
Peter Dutton's reckless attitude is a risk to Tasmanians' way of life.
Responding to the rapidly growing community of Sorell, the opposition leader promising to turn this into a hub of activity, pledging a $2.25 million grant if they win.
It will mean that there can be a gathering of local community, and for special occasions, this really will become a focal point here in Sorell.
Somewhere like this would just promote inclusivity, it's a cultural space, it's a safe space.
The funding, alongside contributions from the local council and state government, would help to deliver an amphitheatre, performing arts facilities, food truck spaces, gardens and public amenities.
This is exactly what the community needs, to have that sense of place and belonging, and that's what small communities are all about.
Protecting Sorell's heritage, a key part of the plan. This site, an old train shed, would be transformed into a community events space. The funding also includes $500,000 for the relocation of the Sorell men's shed.
It also facilitates for the Lions Club, who also need another space as well.
A promise hanging in the balance, with a date for the federal election still to be set.
Peter Dutton needs to be upfront with the Tasmanian people why he's always putting them last.
Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
Hundreds of environmentalists have gathered at Cremorne Beach protesting against a planned expansion of salmon farms in Storm Bay. They claim the move will have detrimental impacts on the Maugean skate and red handfish.
A sea of salmon protesters swarming Storm Bay.
Uncage our bays!
Calling on the state government to stop the expansion of what they describe as polluting fish farms in Storm, Frederick, Henry and Norfolk Bays.
And they want to fill them full of aseptic tanks? It's madness. It's madness.
Community groups, surfers, fishers and families standing in union against the industry.
Because we need to stand up to the salmon industry to protect our Tasmanian clean, green environment.
Today's action comes in protest of Petunia's proposal for 50 open net salmon farms off Yellow Bluff in Storm Bay.
And we say a loud no to Petunia.
The Tasmanian Greens recently tabling a petition with over 4,000 signatures opposing the expansion.
The salmon industry needs to get out of our coastal waters, they need to get out of Macquarie Harbour and they need to get onshore.
Saying any more growth of the industry will have grave threats to species like the Maugean skate and red handfish.
Corporate salmon farming is toxic for our marine environment, it's toxic for local communities.
The state government says rigorous marine farming planning processes are in place to protect the environment.
We have the processes in place to ensure that we're looking after the environment, that we're providing certainty in the process for the industry to invest with confidence where it is safe for it to do so.
While the Federal Fisheries Minister is adamant the Maugean skate and the salmon industry can coexist.
We can have salmon and we can have the environment. We can have both.
Rebecca Gadaneris at 7 Tasmania News.
A move by the Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek to delay a decision on the Robbins Island wind farm project has been slammed by Clean Energy Tasmania. They say it's a lost opportunity to create jobs for the state.
This is a project of national significance and, as I said, it underpins Marinus, and Marinus represents a magnificent opportunity for long-term income for Tasmania.
We're just waiting for the Minister to make a decision, and she has once again decided that she's going to squib making a decision, and that has really substantial ramifications, not only for the people of the west coast of Tasmania, but for Tasmanians more broadly.
Federal Tasmanian Labor MP Julie Collins maintains the government is following due process.
Our minister is doing what any minister would do and go through the processes required under the law.
Ms Plibersek has indicated a decision won't be made until March 7. Tasmanian pharmacies will continue to provide prescriptions to patients with urinary tract infections following a successful pilot program. The state government hinting at expanding services in other areas to tackle the wait to see a doctor.
130 pharmacies across the state have been involved in the pilot program, which saw people suffering from UTIs being able to access appropriate medical care. Since March, Tasmanian pharmacists have provided treatment on 5,000 occasions, ensuring patients aren't left in limbo.
That means more people getting the treatments they need for a basic condition straight away in their own community without having to wait for an appointment with their GP.
Sparing sufferers the mental anguish of an often painful condition.
We want to make sure that we have health care for women where they need it, when they need it, and in a really safe and efficient way.
Pharmacists now also able to extend the supply of oral contraceptives for an additional 12 months when a prescription expires. Both programs proving so successful, the state government is now looking at rolling out further services, traditionally the domain of doctors.
We're examining the role next that pharmacists can play prescribing in aged care environments and in remote areas where there are no GPs.
Many pharmacies already providing soft healthcare services for clients.
We certainly welcome the government's commitment to working with us to roll out more expanded scope of practice over the next 12 to 24 months.
Having played a role in COVID vaccinations, pharmacists are ready to step up for more roles.
Because of our past experience now with where we have been allowed to do more things has proven so effective, it'll make it easier to roll these things out in the future.
Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
There's a push to develop more of Launceston's historic buildings into residential housing. Experts say while there would be challenges, it could help with the housing crisis and provide an economic boost.
They're an example of beautiful Victorian architecture and much admired. Mostly built in the 1850s, the buildings are part of a study by UTAS's School of Architecture and Design.
Interestingly, we've just done a project called Lost Launceston, where we've identified 60 buildings that were knocked down up until the late 1970s. And it's really interesting because you think the city is really intact until you map those.
The thought of losing any of Launceston's built heritage is a horrifying thought for Kay Pickett, who bought this building a decade ago and repurposed it into 31 squares of living space.
Somebody came up here and they just said, oh, it reminds me so much of a New York apartment.
Architect Jeff Brown turning the St John Street building into a masterpiece of indoor and outdoor retreats.
I don't think I could live in an apartment if I couldn't get outside. And the way he's designed it here, we're sitting under cover, so if it rains we can still sit outside.
Despite being a heritage listed building, Kay says complying with planning rules was easy enough.
This side was another complete apartment. It was part of a carpet factory. And there was a double brick wall in here, which we knocked through and we went through, which opened it up and gave us double the space.
It's quite complex to reuse the buildings. There's some really complex things that need to be unpacked, but they're not impossible. These things have been done in other cities.
The Tasmanian government says it's open to creative ideas on providing more residential options, particularly in and around city centres where housing shortages are being felt. City planners also keen for change.
Love to see more people living on top of our shops, as well as the developments that we can look to push with our land holdings in the city. So it really is a super focus for us at the City of Launceston.
Everything's just on tap. You know, I run around the corner to Bread and Butter and buy my rolls and my sourdough bread, and might pop into Ducane's and have a quick sherbie.
And there's a real passive reward to that economically. If there's more people living in the city, there's more people spending in the city.
Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
They have finally found some rhythm, but is it too late for Tasmanian Tigers in their Sheffield Shield clash as they look to claw back South Australia's impressive leads? Matt Kinnaman notching up 4 wickets for the home side, followed closely by Gabe Bell on 2.
Nielsen's been bowled by Gabe Bell. Well, Tasmania's running through this South Australian lineup now.
Tasmania still has a long way to go, chasing 388 runs at stumps.
Good evening, and as always, it's lovely to be with you. Hobart, Devonport and Burnie all 19 today and 20 degrees in Launceston, with minimum temperatures 1 to 2 degrees below average in the west and south and near average elsewhere. 21 the high at St Helens and Friendly Beaches. We saw 18 on Flinders Island, Smithton and Marai Island. 17 on King Island, Low Head, Grove, Bushy Park and Strawn, and just 10 degrees today in Lyweenie. A low-level cloud crossed over the state today, however, it was more widespread towards the west. More scattered low-level cloud follows the passage of a cold front over Tasmania and Victoria. Now, tomorrow that cold front will approach the state as the trough extends across the majority of Queensland and the top end. West to southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, easing 10 to 20 knots about the east during the day. Westerly winds across the lakes at 15 to 20 knots, with swells increasing to 4 metres. A gale warning exists between Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point. The Bureau has also issued a strong wind warning for coastal waters between Stanley to St Helens Point and also for the lower east coast and central west coast. A partly cloudy day in Hobart tomorrow, 19 also in Dover with a shower or 2, a 40% chance of showers in Ouse with 18 degrees there. Cloudy conditions in the north, 20 the top in Launceston, Devonport 19, Scottsdale 17. Grey skies for Burnie and Stanley 18, showery in Strawn 17's the top. A fine and sunny 21 in St Helens, a bit of cloud in Swansea with 23 and much the same for Ross with 22 degrees. Forecast for Tuesday, showers about the west and far south extending statewide during the morning, then easing later. Wednesday showers continue about the west, far south and will also extend to the northeast. And on Thursday, widespread showers about the west and far south, but isolated showers will develop elsewhere. We'll take a quick sticky beak further north now. As we approach a brand new week, the country's high tomorrow, 37 in Broome with possible showers and storms. A couple of showers in Sydney and Brisbane, partly cloudy in Adelaide, Melbourne and also Canberra. And it's also partly cloudy across the state right now. Hobart 15, Launceston 17 and 15 also in Devonport. Have a lovely week, Lou, and I look forward to seeing you again next weekend.
And that wraps up your news for this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.